This is Movies, a podcast about the active cinema. And with me today, wearing a Long Live the New Flesh t-shirt. Maybe because this film, Halloween Ends, is very Cronenberg-esque, according to Hans. That's the argument he was making in our group chat only moments ago. Is Hans. Hans, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, good. I was a huge fan because of how Cronenbergian this movie was.
Well,
So,
I'm on the record of saying that Halloween Kills is like if Brian De Palma did a Halloween movie. And this movie is not quite like anything. I don't know. It's not even like a Halloween movie, really. But hey, we have a special guest tonight. We have a guy who has not appeared on the show solo before. That's the big thing this season, is taking the Rock Hard Buds Pope of Greenwich Village show and plucking out the people who were on there who had never done a guest appearance before on their own, much like Wolfman. We have Jeremy K. Brown here, Jermoby, the host of Flea Pit, After Hours and After Dark. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing excellent. Thank you for having me on. It's great.
Absolutely. I like the, you got Beetlejuice lighting going on. I just have like a seafoam green. This isn't like any, this is like the Munsters maybe. And then Hans is our neutral boy of the mix.
yeah, you just see this censored penis right here that my blur makes it look like something else other than the microphone. Did I just fuck up the audio by touching it?
Yeah, you did, but that's all right. That's all right. People find that charming. You know, it's like
Nice.
when Kenny's making macaroni and he's standing next to the microwave and we're getting all the feedback and interference.
When he's just chewing on that fried chicken skin on camera while he's trying to think of a
Why does it have to be fried chicken skin? It can't be a pork chop?
How's that better? Couldn't it be chitlings? Yeah, that's better.
You know, a lot of people, we've been told that was the funniest episode of which I don't agree with,
No.
of the entire run of movies. But there was one negative comment. Somebody said, I don't mean to be a sourpuss here, but the third guy's cam is a little distracting.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
You're supposed to not watch Kenny, just listen.
yes. Better heard, not seen, like
Yeah.
children in the 1700s. So, Jeremy, you're going to have to be encouraged to just stay in one place throughout the show. I know that might be difficult for you, but
I'll just
don't-
angle the camera everywhere. Yeah.
just bring it with you. Do it like a body cam, like a cop.
Yeah.
Just strap. We don't have to see you, just your apartment.
Just
No,
show
it'd
us
be
up
nice.
your nose. That's a preferred angle from Kenny all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about horror movies because it is the spooky season with Kenny on that episode. And we got into Hellraiser, we got into Dahmer. And I spoiled Halloween Ends because I had read a detailed plot synopsis long before this movie ever came out. And we might have done that on an earlier show, too, where I was like, yeah, according to the spoilers here, there's not going to be any there's going to be hardly any Michael Myers in the movie, which... This is a technique that has been employed before in slasher films where it's the bait and switch. You get another character taking the reins. Friday the 13th has done that twice. I believe A New Beginning, you have I forget what the guy's name is, the paramedic whose son is murdered at the beginning of the film, who adopts the Jason persona. His name's like Ted or something.
Yeah.
And then in Friday the 13th, the final Friday, you get Jason body swapping with people. And that's kind of a little bit of what happens maybe in this film, Halloween Ends. Just to get into the movie, we are going to be spoiling the hell out of this film. So that goes without saying. If you're a longtime listener of this show, you kind of expect that at this point. I mean, we spoiled it without having seen it on the last show.
What was the comment on Clerks 3? It's like, 3 minutes before you start spoiling the movie.
No, it was like
So,
18 seconds. It was literally
oh.
your first words. You said, I don't want to be Dante. Dante dies.
Oh yeah. All right. Well,
As I was introducing you.
yeah.
I'd like to start with you, Jeremy. What has been your take on the David Gordon Green trilogy of Halloween films? But also, what is your fondness for the Halloween movies in general? Where does this stand for you as far as like these slasher franchises go?
I mean, it kind of starts or stems from my I guess my foray into John Carpenter's stuff back when I was 9 or 10 years old, and then It started with The Thing, and then some of his later '80s material, and then quickly landed to Halloween. And then I didn't realize it had expanded into this franchise that it's now continually getting made, or hopefully we have not seen the end yet with this new one. We don't know, but
What is called Halloween Ends? It's over. This is it. This is the final one. They would never do
yeah,
that,
no, of
right?
course not. No,
Yeah,
This
you
is
hear
what, like the
fear the
12th one?
Reaper. Yeah, fear the Reaper at the
yeah,
end. It's just like, yeah, we're getting
yeah.
it right.
That's definitely over. I watched an interview with David Gordon Green, conducted by the Collider YouTube channel, which is somehow still around, which is shocking. And he said his first time watching the theatrical cut of Halloween Kills in full, all the way through, was 2 days before it came out in theaters. That was the first time he saw the entire thing put together. And it kind of shows, in my opinion. Anyway, Halloween has never been my favorite franchise. I think there's maybe like 2 or 3 good ones in the entire run of, like, the original run. I think if you look to the first one, that one's good. I don't get the dick sucking over it, to be honest with you. I think it's just kind of like a standard horror film. I remember I went to a screening in 2011, and kids in the theater, like 17, 18-year-olds, were laughing at the acting, and it kind of spoiled it for me a little bit. I saw it in a different way, in a way I'd never seen before. And I later went back to it, and I was like, oh, no, this is good. But I still have kind of just lukewarm feelings about the original John Carpenter feature compared to, like, say, the Nightmare on Elm Street series, or even some of the better Friday the 13th. And for the longest time, I considered Halloween 3 Season of the Witch my favorite of the series. That was kind of the contrarian choice, which is now completely mainstream. Everybody agrees Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is, like, cool or whatever, which makes me want to say it's not my favorite anymore. But that's fine. Jeremy, do you have a favorite of that original run? We'll say the cutoff is Resurrection.
Uh, of the Halloween movies, sorry, the sound cut out here. Yeah, of the Halloween films, I would say the original is still probably my go-to, the first. The thing with Season of the Witch is that it's just the name. Like, I if you watch that going off of like what it intended to do, which is be an anthology series, be something kind of different, I appreciate it for that. I don't even include the Halloween title, even though it takes place on the holiday. But that would be the close second. Yeah. But the original, I mean, the I went back on Letterboxd just to look at some of my old thoughts on at least 4, 5, and 6. And 4 and 5, I think watching that with fresher eyes and commentary and a little bit more subtext, they actually kind of hold up in their own kind of fun, campy way, like that end of the '80s period or gearing into the '90s, and then they all just kind of start going downhill afterwards. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
They're
don't
kind
know
of
if
Is
like
you,
that the
the
girl?
the
The one with the girl,
Schumacher
right?
films of the Halloween series, where
yeah.
it's like you can take them or leave them. You don't really need to see them necessarily to get the best experience, the most optimal experience. Sorry to cut you off, Hans. What were you saying?
That those are the ones with the little girl, right? She's the Michael Myers.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
when you
yeah.
The
when
niece.
you were mentioning that at the beginning, that they did a thing that other franchises have done, where they do like a it's Michael, but it's not Michael. It's like they have done that here already with this franchise, with the little girl, and with Seasons of the Witch too.
Right.
I would say the first one, it's my go-to or my favorite. I enjoy the first three. Everything else, I remember either last year or the year before that, or within the last 5 years, I watched all of them, and I think because I think we were gonna do an episode on that or something, and I ended
Well,
up watching.
we've done a couple of Halloween episodes before. We covered Halloween. Maybe it was the original. And this is like the single digit early day episodes before Hans was ever co-host. We I think we might have covered the original '78 Halloween. Might have. We covered the 2018 Halloween. I did with Jacob A. Miller, the cinematologist, and then we did an episode immediately following on Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, and that was the first Halloween special of movies we did. I don't think we ever planned to do a retrospective, though. Maybe we did. I don't know.
Uh, I hope we don't, because I that was not my favorite experience. And I feel like that's happened a lot with all of these, I guess, American monster movies from the 80s, where there's maybe a couple of them that are legitimately good that hold up, and then the rest is just a painful experience to get through. You're right there.
Yeah,
That's your
now this, I'm in a haunted house. I'm
Oh no.
recording this
I get
from the Amityville horror.
I'm gonna get
Is what's happening here? Let me see if I can get a
Corey
better
whispering
light.
in the background.
The ghost of Corey. Uh, all right, so the first 5 or 6 Halloween movies are kind of their own thing, where you have Halloween from John Carpenter, you've got Halloween 2 from who's that, like Rick
Rick
Rosenthal.
Rosenthal. Yeah.
Yeah, Tommy Lee Wallace takes the reins with Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. You have a kind of soft reboot continuation with Halloween 4, and then 5, and the Thorn Cult of Halloween 6,
Mm.
which I think that might be my least favorite of the entire batch of films. I found it the most excruciating to watch upon its original release. And then you have, again, kind of a little bit of a harder reboot, but it was never aware to me at the time that this was supposed to be different from the 4, 5, 6 film series Halloween H2O. That's not supposed to be a continuation of that. And it concludes with Halloween Resurrection, the Buster Rhymes uh,
Hell yeah.
masterpiece vehicle.
Classic.
Which I should say, by the way, at the start of that little section of the series, the first time I saw that title, I was like, Halloween water. What does that mean?
Yeah.
So confused. And then, yeah, it adds up, but not what I would have called it.
Wait,
Yeah.
so it's one and two, and then the sequel to that is H2O, and then Resurrection,
There's
sequel to
like
that,
4 different timelines here. So there's 1 and 2, and then 4, 5, 6, and then there's 1 and 2, and H2O and Resurrection, and then 1 and 2, or just one, and then the David Gordon Green trilogy.
right? Are you excited about David Gordon Green doing a trilogy of Exorcist movies?
No, no, I'm not. And look, I've enjoyed for the most part David Gordon Green's uh, Halloween trilogy, but I also never had that fondness for the Halloween films. I have a very strong fondness for The Exorcist. I think that's probably the best horror movie. I think it's one of the best American movies ever made, and there's never been a need to continue that, although they keep trying. Will it be the worst thing to come out from it? I doubt it. They did a Fox TV show for 2 seasons. They did Exorcist: The Beginning, with Rennie Harlan as the director remaking Paul Schrader's film. So no, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world, but it's not necessary.
And after seeing these three, well, no, I guess this is a stupid question. Just like if you have any expectations of it being good, because the thing is that with these Halloween movies, if you look at all of them, most of them are kind of goofy. Like none
Mm-hmm.
of them, I mean, maybe the first one and the second one take themselves very seriously. Everything else is kind of difficult to take it seriously when you have Busta Rhymes calling Michael Myers a motherfucker before he kicks him. Like, it's funny, it's fun. And I actually do enjoy those movies more than I thought I would when I rewatched them recently, just because of how goofy and how early 2000s they are. But The Exorcist is a much more serious, at least the first one, movie. So I can't imagine him doing something like what he did with this trilogy, with The Exorcist. I'm only curious because I want to know what he does with it, especially if he has Danny McBride working with him on it. Um, because I feel like that probably changed the tone of what we ended up getting with this trilogy after all. But it just doesn't seem like a
Hold on, you think Danny
match.
McBride's the reason why these movies have the tone they do?
I'm sure some of the or one of the reasons why, because of what his track record uh, shows, even things that he's not in. Everything has like a little bit of maybe not comedy, but it's not as serious, I guess, as it could be. And that's what I'm assuming, mostly because honestly not very familiar with David Gordon Green's career, even though we've talked about him a bunch.
Well, I'm very familiar with David Gordon Green's career, and I would say that um, this is about on brand for him. I've seen, I might have seen all of his movies except for, I think he directed a movie called Crisis is Our Brand with Sandra Bullock and Billy Bob Thornton, and I haven't seen that. Or Our Brand is Crisis, something like that. There were two movies that came out in the same year or period of time that looked exactly the same, and one starred Tina Fey and one starred Sandra Bullock.
So
And I think they both
Manglehorn,
had Billy Bob Thornton in them.
Manglehorn or Goat?
No, Manglehorn is an Al Pacino and Harmony Korine movie that's kind of boring. It looked like he did it in a week because he had access to Pacino and they just did something. He did a movie called Joe with Nicolas Cage and Ty Sheridan, which was enjoyable. And that came out the same year as Prince Avalanche with Paul Rudd and Emile Hirsch. And that was kind of a comeback for him after doing The Sitter, which was horrible.
Your Highness.
And Your Highness, yeah. That's right. That was another. That was a 1-2 hit blow that took him out of Hollywood for a little bit. And but his origins are great. George Washington, All the Real Girls, even up to Pineapple Express is terrific. And I think everything he's done for television has been great. He's doing that Hellraiser TV show for HBO Max. I'm curious about that. And you know, when I was watching this movie, the biggest thing that came to mind in terms of how they've handled the Halloween franchises, I don't even think they want to do. Maybe they do want to do Halloween movies, but I think they would be best equipped doing like a Haddonfield TV show, because the strongest aspect of this movie, of Kills, and also of the original 2018 reboot is character development. They have a great understanding of what makes for compelling characters or funny or interesting characters that maybe make up for lacking story elements or plot elements.
I don't know if I agree with.
Well, what is the problem with you for on that?
I
end?
hated this movie. I fucking hated.
You
this
hated the movie?
Oh my god, I
Wow.
hated it.
I
so
saw
much.
Hans's glowing review on Letterboxd.
Yeah, I don't know. It felt a very similar pain that I felt when I first watched Halloween Kills, where I was like, wait, am I supposed to be taking this shit seriously? No, no, I'm not. Hold on. No, 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 of course not. This is kind of funny. This is goofy. This is very cheesy. Wait, I'm supposed to be taking. No, hold on. So it was that the whole
Yeah.
movie. I was just like, wait a second. They're actually going with like they actually mean the. I just met this guy three days ago, but I'm willing to live my entire life because of his penis that I haven't even touched.
Hell yeah.
Wait,
That's
hold on a
typical
second.
girl behavior.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know. There's so many things like that where I was just very confused as to what I'm supposed to be getting from this. And I think I felt the same way when I first watched Halloween Kills because it was so different tonally from the first one. I think
Yeah, no, I think this movie was definitely meant to be more serious than Halloween Kills. I did not see Hans's letterbox review. Jeremy, what did he give it?
I think 1.5, right?
Oh my God, 1.5. All right. Well, what did you make of this? Well, actually, let's start at 2018 and then we'll work our way up. What was your impression of that 2018 reboot when it came out?
I remember actually a bunch of us when that film came out at the time on social media, there was like a mixed sort of reception. There were some people that were really saying like this is the best comeback possible for not just the character but just for Ice Blumhouse. Even Blumhouse didn't have as many successes at the time under its wheelhouse, and now when I looked at it, I thought it was kind of average. It exceeded some expectations, but others it kind of watered things down in ways I didn't quite want to see. I thought it was shot very well. It definitely pays the most homage to JC's original than any other version has done in the series. And most of the acting was good, but then it always throw in these weird shots, these weird David Gordon Greenisms where they don't quite gel or mix in well with some really well executed scenes that are also scattered throughout. Moments of just Michael Myers walking around neighborhoods, like that's the stuff we were there for, and it would cut away and just do hokey stuff like every once in a while, just have fun. And maybe that's the more comedian input that's you see, I guess, interjected in all three of these movies. But I kind of gave it sort of an average sort of review. I was like, it's good, but it could be better.
Yeah.
Looking back, I like it a little bit more, but I don't know how I would rank all three of these. But maybe I'll find out tonight.
What is your impression of Halloween Kills? That was probably the most polarizing one. Maybe it polarized more than this one, where I think, I mean, I would say that this one is actually more split than Halloween Kills, because the majority of people who watched Halloween Kills were not vibing with it at all. Because I think that was the bigger bait and switch than even just not really having Michael Myers in this movie. Is they gave you a pretty serious sequel that fits with the original 78 one, and then they gave you kind of like a slapstick comedy for the follow up. So I mean, what was your impression of Halloween Kills when it came out last year?
Well, when that one came out, I sort of knew a little bit what I guess Green would have been inclined to maybe do, or at least and getting more familiar with his filmography. By that point, I was just along for the ride and was having a huge fun time with Kills. I mean, you especially have made Evil Dies Tonight the most quotable thing possible. That it's just the whole mob going crazy element is uh I don't know. Like I wanted that just to be its own movie, like in its whole. My one gripe with that film is that like Laurie has nothing to do. She's like hanging out in a hospital the entire time, talking about evil, narrating, getting nothing done, and then everybody else just dies.
Yeah, yeah. And Hans, I mean, what did this retroactively change your opinion, your softer opinion of Halloween Kills?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm very conflicted. I don't know because I wanted to give this a chance, like I did with the last one. Because when I first watched it, I was like, "What is this? Like, this is not what I was expecting at all. I don't like it. It's very goofy. It's very cheesy. I hated the Jamie Lee Curtis character and her daughters too. So I kind of wanted them to die, and the fact that they didn't, I was like, God, fucking die, both of you. Oh, the three of you, I guess. I don't know. I just like there were so many things about this movie that just didn't work for me, and I thought the first 10 minutes I was hooked with that scene with the Corey character and the little boy. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, this is I really like the way this is shot, and I really like the kind of serious tone that they're going with this. But then it just became like idle hands, but with his whole body, where oh no, is it idle hand? It's one, yeah, one hand.
No, no,
Idle hand?
yeah. No, I think
Yeah.
it's Idle Hands. I think it's Idle Hands.
No, but it's
But it
only one
was
hand.
one
It gets
hand. It
possessed.
was
Yeah.
one
Oh,
hand, but I think it's
okay.
called Idle Hands because
Okay, where he, I guess, got touched by Michael, and then all of a sudden, he's a different person, and he whispers a lot, and everything is kind of serious, but everything he's saying is very cheesy and weirdly autistically romantic, because
Mhm.
it's not. It felt like a teenager show where like an old person wrote, and they're like, this is how young people flirt with each other, and this is how old people flirt with each other, which was also awkward. The comb over cop and the Laurie character, every
Comb over
interaction I was
cop.
like, can you fucking end it? I hate this. So I don't know if it changed my opinion on the last one, because I guess I would have to revisit it after this, which is probably something that I'm not gonna do. But on its own, yeah, I didn't finish it last night. I finished it today because I couldn't I got it to like an hour 10, and then I realized I still had 40 minutes to go, and I was like, I'm just gonna be in a bad mood all night. So so I finished it today, and still I don't it just didn't work for me. It didn't grab me at any point. Even when the kills started, that a couple of them were kind of cool. I was also bothered by the fact that a couple of them were out of focus or not shown, like the one with the fire thing
Oh, I
going
thought
on.
that was awesome. I thought that was a terrific kill.
I would have liked that if they didn't show us the girl that was trapped behind and you just see it out of focus. I
No,
was like,
Hans,
this
that's
is fucking
called discipline. You're
right.
discipline. You don't need the extra indulgence there. You can see it's horrifying enough. Some people would say
But
out of focus shots are masterful. I almost shot, how about this? And I would have actually regretted this greatly, considering I got a bunch of scrapes, bumps, and bruises from our fight. I was going to shoot our entire fight sequence of Mass Day Lottery out of focus on purpose.
oh, Great. That would
That would
have
have been
been.
too art faggy, I think, and I really would have regretted that. I'm glad I didn't. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I watched this movie twice, and my first go around, I was deeply confused about how I felt about this movie. The first when I watched Halloween Kills, I was kind of passively watching. I wasn't really paying attention, and I was like playing with my phone and stuff, and I was picking up things here and there, but I wasn't really invested. I was like, "Huh? What was that? Are these just like two gay guys that are like?" Are they making fun of gay people in this aspect of the like? What's going
Is
on here? They're
is
watching
that
a Cassavetes movie.
is that
What's happening?
Stewart from Matt TV?
Yeah.
He's gay now. He's a
Or
husband.
Anthony Michael Hall is like not acting well in this movie, and he's got a big old bowling ball gut and a horrible, off-putting bald head, like he just shaved for the role. What is happening? And so I went back and I watched it, and I was like, "Wow, this is really the movie." And then I watched it a third time, and I was infatuated with it. I was like, "This movie is bonkers. I can't believe this is what they made." And so this time around, I was like, "All right, I've read the spoilers. I know it's not going to have a whole lot to do with that movie. I have to accept that this probably isn't going to be a Halloween film. This is going to be a Corey film." And I always hate it when in movies they give you the false killer. They give you the Ted instead of Jason, or they give you the coroner who or the diner lady at Camp Crystal Lake instead of Jason. And no, I really like Corey. I thought Corey was cool and a hunk, and I was really invested in the scenes on the motorcycle with the cool music. It was like very, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of. It felt like they were going for a throwback to '80s films that were throwbacks to '50s films. It felt very Christine with like
Yeah.
what's the nerd Arnie, I think his name was, or
Yeah.
something. The actor's name is not coming up. Keith Gordon, I think his name is, reminded me so much of that. Like they're homaging John Carpenter in a different way and kind of doing what he originally set out to do in that. It's an anthology film. It's still tied to Michael, which is a half measure. Like they should have just done away with Michael. I didn't
Yeah.
want Michael. I didn't really care about the kills. I was like, just do Corey. Just have a full fucking Corey film. And the only thing that I disliked strongly were the last 20 minutes because they give up on Corey
Yeah.
and they turn it into they're like, well, you know, there's still a Halloween film. It's like Blumhouse said, no, you can't do a season of The Witch to completion. We need that ending. We need something fulfilling here. And I read that the original test screening ending to the movie, which people hated, is that so there were a couple of different endings that were shot for this movie. One was Lori killing herself and Corey gets away, and that's the movie. That was one. I don't think that was screened. I think that might have been better.
Yeah.
The second was Corey dies in the way that we see. Michael dies, but they take him to like what is it, an infirmatory where you get cremated, and he's cremated, and then Lori tries to strangle her granddaughter to death because evil possesses, you know, it infects and possesses, and that would have been fucking stupid. But I don't know. I would have been interested to see that because it at least would have been on theme with everything that we had seen, right, with the Corey character. But what we get feels so unearned. Like this should have been the ending of Halloween Kills, if anything. If you cut that 20 minutes off, throw that on Halloween Kills, and then you just have the Corey storyline, then I think you're on a more linear track. I will say, I thought that them putting Michael Myers into a meat grinder and his head like popping and exploding was like it was a cool visual, but it didn't feel like it belonged in this film.
I I'm so sick of that Lori character. I hated how they had her writing for at least three scenes of this movie and then just explaining the emotions she was feeling, even though we're watching everything that's happening. Uh, I feel like they were trying to make her more of a character into Corey's story, but that all just felt very forced because he's just like, I see him, I see Michael in his eyes and get away from him. And then she's sitting there very menacing while he wakes up and he's like, I'm gonna stop you. And he's like, why are we afraid of this Activia eating old lady who seems to be the only person that Michael can't overpower, by the way? I was very confused by that at the end, where it's just like, just why is it so difficult to kill this old lady? Like, and then her granddaughter broke his arm at one point. Bro, it's just like, so Michael is just frail now. They couldn't decide if Michael was going to be this sewer creature that lived in the tiniest sewer that I've ever seen in my life, or at least in movies, or if all of a sudden, and this was me trying to fill in the holes too, because when Corey first goes into the sewer, he overpowers Michael very easily, right?
Hmm.
And then when he kills, I think is the cop, like the ex-boyfriend or whatever, and he like
Not
comes.
ex-boyfriend. He's just a serial harasser.
Right. Okay. So that guy. And then Michael like comes for whatever reason. He just goes like, "Ugh," and it's like, all right. So I was like,
I
okay,
don't
so
think he made that noise. I
I
don't think
was
he
like,
made
so he
that
go-
noise once in the
well, he
movie.
shook. He shook a lot. So I imagine he was ejaculating. But then um I was like, okay, so is it that he forgot that he kills, and now that he's killed again, he got his powers or his strength back? But then that's never mentioned again. And
Well, you
then
got to think he's been eating rats and drinking sewer water for
right.
4 years, presumably. He's weak now. He's got septic shock or something. Yeah, there's so many elements that are like borderline supernatural that aren't explained, which is fine. But it's only fine up until that ending because I was kind of like, is Michael even in that sewer? Is this going to be like some sort of like weird mental trick, the ghost of like I don't know. There's so many different ways they could have went with it if they just didn't try and circle back to, oh, hey, this is a Halloween movie
Yeah.
after all. Then I think there's more room to explore. But I guess he didn't ever bother with that bum who was just sleeping 20 feet away from him, right?
Right. Yeah. The one
I
that
don't.
got just killed.
And
That was his first killed, right?
yeah, well, intentional kill. He's kind of like, if you think about Jamie Lee Curtis, she's a liberal. Halloween Kills, a lot like January 6th. This movie, Kyle Rittenhouse. Things to think about there.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
they also kind of I thought this was going to be a direct continuation right from where Kills left off. I thought it was a little bit of a cop out to just jump 4 years later and not explain really what happened. I mean, they gave like a condensed sort of backstory, but I mean, you end on a shot of Laurie's daughter getting slaughtered, and then it's like, oh, I guess we're just jumping ahead. We're gonna not even address that or even talk about what happened there. Really, we're just gonna be very loosey goosey with the plot here and just jump to new characters. And oh yeah, Michael, he just doesn't show up anymore. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wait, what do you mean? Didn't you see the painting that her daughter did for her that said "I'll protect you" and had her little hands on the wall that she kept looking at?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah, that's
that,
all it. That's
subtle
all you
imagery. That's all they
yeah,
got.
yeah. That's 4 years,
Also,
just looking at the painting.
Also, I mean, I will tip my hat though to any film that wants to start off killing off a 10-year-old named Jeremy. I mean, that's and, who disrespected the thing like very hard. Like when I was 10 years old, I was
Oh
I
yeah,
was not that bratty. So yeah, he deserved that.
he deserved that fucking
He did. What an
terrible.
annoying child. Good.
Yeah,
Fell right over What a gruesome death. That was very fun. That was a fun
Yeah.
opening sequence, I think, to the movie.
I also liked how the dad showed up like an hour into the movie. He was like, I mean, he killed
I
my
don't miss my
kid.
son.
He killed my kid, but he's a good guy. He
He's a
mowed my lawn.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think there's a lot to like about this movie that's in the middle, and a lot of scenes that I think work, but I don't know if it all comes together. I don't think it really does. I think Halloween Kills comes together because they took a big swing and stuck to it and were consistent throughout that movie on what that was going to be. And my feeling is that they had an idea in mind, and David Gordon Green has said as much. It was originally not going to be set 4 years after. It was going to be set the next night, November 1st. You can't call it Halloween, I guess.
Right.
And they, I think, maybe reeled back a bit because of the reaction to Halloween Kills. People didn't like the tone that was set with Halloween Kills and just how big of a deviation it was from everything that came before it. But they had these ideas already in mind. The script was probably already written, and they had 4 screenwriters on this movie. And that is never a good sign if you have more than 2, really. 3 screenwriters. I mean, they've all had 3 screenwriters, I think. But 4 that's a very rocky road to go down.
That's when you can tell that they didn't know what they wanted to do, so they just brought extra people and they just.
Well, David Gordon Green in the interview explained the writing process, which was they would get to a point in the script that was going to be a crossroads. There was a fork in the road. All right, so for the ending, for example, we're going Michael POV, or what we think is Michael's POV, in the house as Laurie's, reporting her suicide. Everybody write a different version of how this pans out, and we're going to go with the best version. Choose your own adventure style of screenwriting.
We'll pick it out of a hat. Yeah.
Yes, which is why this has the consistency it does. I don't think that's the best approach when handling something like this kind of IP. It can lead to some interesting moments and decisions, maybe, but I don't know if they really wound up at those.
Yeah, there's a lot of choices. When the violence starts, which is what, like an hour and a half in, an hour 20 in is when the kills start, and yeah, just things that don't really make much sense. That scene when Corey stabs himself in the neck because I guess he feels like, I don't know. He says, what does he say? If I can't have her, no one can.
Yeah.
So instead of killing the old lady that's stopping him from having her, he stabs himself in the neck. And then I was like, they're not going to do the Mexican telenovela thing where someone does a thing they're not supposed to do just so that they can get caught. And what did she do? Pulled the knife out of his neck like this, like if she just stabbed him in the neck, right at the precise moment where his granddaughter walks through the door and freaks out about it. And I'm just like, what? This is why I had such a problem figuring out if it was supposed to be taken serious or if this was like, oh, okay, it's goofy and silly. Because choices like that, where I'm just like, what? It doesn't make any sense that, number one, why would you take the knife out of his throat if he's just stabbed himself? And then right at the precise, like she waited and then she pulled it out. Instead of like throwing it away, no, she pulled it out and held it so that someone could see her. And
She wanted to show her the knife. Say, hey, look at this knife.
Hey, look
Isn't
at what
it
he
big?
just did. Didn't he? Look at, he just stabbed himself in the neck.
Hey, I
and
just put my
pulled it out.
fingerprints on this knife.
Yeah.
You want to call the police? Can we settle
Right.
this?
Right. And then she freaks out, of course, and starts telling her truths or whatever, which is it's all about you and all about Michael, and which is also very confusing because, okay, so she has a problem with that. But we spend most of the movie with Laurie talking about Michael, which is, all right, enough. It's like, we get it, Batman, your parents died. Do we need to hear about it again? It's like the same type of thing of like, we know that you've dealt with this because you've been telling us for 3 movies. And now in this movie, no, she's writing about it. So it's different, even though she's pretty much saying the same thing she said the entire time about how she feels or whatever. So I didn't like the fact that I understand that she's the first final girl and, the connection with Michael or whatever, but focusing on Corey and that relationship for most of the movie, relationship, by the way, because it's very quick and very, we're in love and we're going to go the end of the world guy whose penis I've touched once, forced, by the way, because he didn't want it. And then you move to, oh no, now we care about Laurie, and Laurie is also going to find love with Comb Over Cop at the end, even though all she's got in her life is horror and pain. So it's just the two things that they just didn't, mix for me. I just, again, I was very confused as to how I was supposed to feel with all this,
As Jamie Lee would put it, it's about trauma. That's
Right.
that's the driving force of the. Please write "Come Over Cop." By the way, Hans, put that pen to paper. I want to see that. I really want to see that now.
Yeah, none of the characters were consistent with their previous portrayals either. So Jamie Lee Curtis in the first movie is, gun freak, libertarian woman, where she's hung up on self-defense and figuring out what is the best approach here if he comes back. but he's locked up in an institution for 45 years or however fucking long. Now he's on the loose and he killed her daughter. Now she's just writing a book. She's comfortable
Right.
now. It happened. The
Oh
worst is
yeah.
over. My daughter's dead. Who gives a fuck? And then Michael is not the superpowered monster he once was. No, he's just a weak old man, which they make a point of making several times. So I don't know, but I actually didn't mind the Laurie Strode character in this one because she's so normal and not overbearing and not the center of focus or anything like that. She's just a kind of a typical older woman. I
I
don't
just
know.
hate them, I guess. I can't stand them, I guess. I have a problem with them that I just discovered. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole Strode family though, like the real looming problem here is that I don't know why they just didn't ditch Haddonfield after the events of part two, because they really have no reason or anything that's tying them to there other than just the tragedy of it all. Half the town hates them anyway, so just like
Yeah.
move out. I don't know.
I love
Like,
how it got spun into she teased a mentally ill man until he snapped.
Oh, yeah. Hey, didn't you? Yeah, until he stabbed my sister and her husband, and the fact that she's in a wheelchair and can't speak and has a couple of stab wounds is
They
your fault,
love
lady.
bringing back clearly dead characters and say, actually, they lived. It was Will Patton, comb over cop, and now it's the black prostitute from Borat survived.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it have been Anthony Michael Hall?
Yeah. I guess they didn't want to pay him again.
Yeah, he did. He was too busy doing Clerks 3.
Oh no. Oh yeah, he popped up in that. Oh.
Yes, he did. He certainly did. So I don't know. Listen, like I said, I don't view this movie or the last movie really as like Halloween or Halloween proper. It's more Haddonfield. It's about the town. It becomes about all of the people in the town, the effect of Michael Myers. And so I think that they did something kind of interesting with that. But Blauergeist on Twitter probably phrased it best in that it's more like Francis Ford Coppola's Godfather trilogy, in that you have the first part and the second part, and then this is the coda. There's not really, third part is misleading. No, this is just the epilogue. That's probably the best way to view it. Hans, I can see from your face you certainly agree with that. I know.
Oh yeah.
It's a
No, yes,
very
very high
uh,
praise.
correct take to have.
How do you feel about that scene where Corey comes home smelling like women or woman, I guess, and then his mom is like, "You leave my house. You leave now." And then she like kisses him,
Yeah.
and then he like storms out because of course you would, and then his dad is like, "Hope you find love." It's like what am I watching? I was so confused by that.
His mom is clearly one of those moms who is, first of all, weird, but second, gets very possessive or jealous when there's like a girlfriend, which I've had like friends who have had that kind of mom before, and that's always a weird thing. And then you have his stepdad, who's like this he kind of looks like William Peter Blatty if he was very overweight. And he's a nice guy. He's the nicest guy in the whole movie. He protects Corey. He takes a shotgun blast to the face to protect his stepson who's killed. I mean, that's really the big thing with all of these films is stepfathers are the best, right? So in the first movie, you have what's Arnie from Pete and Pete talking about his penis at the dinner table. He's the best dad in the world. And then you have Lonnie, played by the guy from God, what was it? Cataclysm, which was a David Gordon Green produced movie.
Oh, right.
And he wasn't a step. I think he was just a deadbeat dad, not a stepdad. And I think he got his son killed. So there you go. And then you have this guy whose name is not coming to mind, and he protected his son. He died protecting who he loved.
Did he love him? I
Clearly,
mean, he got him
did.
the bike, right? I guess.
He employed him. He got him the bike, and he was much better to him than his mother was.
Yeah.
Raised
if-
him.
If there's something that I have to praise David Gordon Green with this, or the four people that wrote it, is that they did such a good job at just making everyone hateable, so that when they die, you're like, okay, thank you. Like that whole gang of teenagers from the 80s that were just like very na 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 point finger.
Who were like
shit.
7 years younger than Corey. Yeah.
Yeah, that will beat him up every time. when they died, I was like, okay, it took you long enough to start killing these people, but it's satisfying to see them die because they're so obnoxious and annoying and just cartoony. So I'll give him that. All of the deaths, I was always like, okay, all right. The radio guy, what was his name? I wrote it down. Willie the Kid. Be keeping it real. That guy, when he died, I was like, yeah, caught his tongue. Good, because he's
That
annoying
was
as
a good
fuck.
death.
Yeah.
There was also a cameo from
Darcy.
Darcy
Yeah.
of Joe
Yeah.
Bob's Last Drive-In.
Was that
She
the
apparently,
receptionist?
yes, she had a death scene too that got cut. You know, I really thought this radio tower was going to come in play much more than it did because I was listening to the Halloween Kills commentary, which is a great listen because it's Jamie Lee Curtis rattling on all of her old like fogey liberal talking points like this is so powerful for women, and it's Judy Greer and David Gordon Green kind of like making fun of her because of it, but she doesn't realize. So like Judy Greer would be like on the set. I remember I told Jamie Lee Curtis this scene is actually a metaphor for the feminist movement of the '60s and how women burned their bras and stuff. And she was just baiting her, like she was bullshitting David Gordon. And she would say something. David Gordon Green's like, "Yeah, and the sky looks so great in this shot, and the fence. You know, this was a digital, just completely ignoring whatever she just fucking said." But he makes a point of saying you know, there's a radio tower that is digitally inserted in Halloween Kills, and that is going to set up a great deal for Halloween Ends. This radio tower is going to come back in play. And so I'm thinking there's going to be a Silver Shamrock component where there's like a radio wave that goes out, and that's Michael's mask, and there's something going on here. And it's, nope, that's just where Corey hangs out when he's sad.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna do something with that when he brought her upstairs and he was like, "I always just
He
stare at
did.
that and I feel
They
like
were
it's
cuddling,
pulling
and
me."
he
What did
was
it
like,
say?
yeah.
I feel like it pulls me or it calls me or whatever. And then, never mind. He got told by I guess the only guy that works in that radio station, that this guy Willie the Kid, and then that's it. We don't hear from that radio tower anymore.
Well, yeah,
Just
there's no radio host. He killed him. He ripped his fucking tongue out.
The ear just kept revolving now, so that's how everybody. That's what they're all hearing at that
Yeah.
point.
I was actually intrigued remembering back to that. Like, oh, how is this going to come into play? And I think it might have opened with like a shot of, I don't know. But it doesn't really pan out in any sort of substantial manner as far as the plot goes. It's just like his James Dean moments take place on the roof of the radio station. And then he gets on his bike, and then like a cool track from Johnny Goth is playing in the background. And yeah, you got
did
nice
they
bokeh.
did they use the same footage for those two bike riding scenes?
No, his outfit's different.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because I
So
feel it's kind of unnecessary to use two shots where they do the same, but
it was
that's
very
just
Bound to the Kanye West music
right.
video.
Yeah, very confusing in the middle of everything that's happening.
They
He's
needed
like
a
rubbing
third
his
one.
chest.
I think they needed a third one, personally. You know, I've seen people photoshopping Michael Myers on his back. That would have been real cute. You know, they could have played up the best friend element more, but it is more of a love story.
Yeah, that's Halloween Ends. It's a love story. It's about love and was it trauma? How did she say it? I can only
Trauma, like almost like
trauma.
trying to say trauma, but like it's
Mhm.
trauma. I don't know. Like at a certain point, it just bleeds into that. So
I saw a clip the other day about her talking about how she replied to Kanye West's tweet. And she was like, I can't believe she said that. I read that tweet and I immediately started crying. I was like, lady, you need to.
I was
Jesus,
I was
God.
I was gonna say all this is really telling now about Jamie Lee Curtis because that one line delivery she has, which you can tell is probably a Danny McBride line that he probably wrote. When he's like, "You gotta get your tits out, honey. You
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
you gotta settle for the right man, and you tell him, you know, we're gonna fucking do this." You know, she was so energetic to do that. So
Mhm.
Yeah, that was like the women's liberation in the 60s
there you go.
when she said that.
Exactly. Yeah, so this is like the most confusing way to end a franchise, I think. And it only really does make sense if you view it in that way that Blower guy cited, which is as a coda, as an epilogue. This is not really the end. Halloween Kills was the end, and Michael won. This is just the fallout of that, and you get a little bit of lingering in the town after everybody's already moved away. All your friends have gone away to college a little bit early. You're still in the town for the summer, for August and early September, and you're just hanging out. Well, what is that time going to be? It's Halloween Ends. It's you falling in love and riding your motorbike and cutting the tongue out of the disc jockey up at the radio tower at the radio station. That's what this movie is. And so it's just kind of a vibe. It's just a hangout. And I'm fine with that. I mean, like I said, no love lost from me as far as the Halloween series goes. So this movie, I accept it on its own terms. I accept it as like a soft remake of Christine or something, or any of those movies of like the nerd gets empowered and suddenly becomes a bad guy. It fits right in line with all of those types of movies. And as a Halloween film, I mean, look, we've had repeats of the Halloween movie that everyone has come to expect 7 or 8 times over to varying degrees. 4, 5, 6. They're all pretty much the same movie in terms of formula. H2O becomes a little bit of Scream, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and it fits with that whole 90s era. But it's still kind of the same, right? So for them to do something completely different and make it character driven, I'm fine with that. And I like David Gordon Green. I like Danny McBride, so maybe I'm being more generous on it just because I like everything that they've done for the most part, except for their very Hollywood shit. But
What do you guys think is next for this franchise? Because I was looking up the box office numbers, and first of all, I didn't know it was released in theaters too. Because when I watched this, I got the Peacock thing at the
yeah.
beginning. It's like, oh, okay, so this is just
Which,
direct to streaming.
by the way, I'll say the Peacock I mean, I'm at my mother's house in Brockton. I've been here for 2 weeks. I watched Halloween Kills here as well. She has Peacock because she's got Comcast. Halloween Kills did not look that good when they uploaded it. Halloween Ends was a much cleaner transfer to Peacock. I think I don't know why that is. Just something I observed here. But yes, it was released the same day as theaters.
It
Hans.
made 58 million on the first weekend, so I don't think they're gonna
58
let.
million?
That's
I
what.
read 41.
Uh, it's hold on. Estimated 41 million in this debut weekend, and another 17 million from international territories.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, because if it made this much money, apparently it cost like 20 million,
It
23
did.
million. So if it made its money back and then some, I can't imagine the studio letting it die, or letting this franchise just, another 10, 15 years before they make something
Well,
else.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. First of all, anytime you see a budget, especially for like a movie with a notable IP, double it because it doesn't account for the marketing budget. But
Right.
still, it's made up the marketing budget. People were, I think, because people are very mixed to negative on this movie. They were trying to cite it. The press was trying to cite it as more of a failure than it was, but it only made like 5 or 6 million less than Halloween Kills. I think Halloween Kills put people off a little bit, and it did hurt the box office on this one. But it's like you said, it's made its money back already. It's probably made back its marketing budget, and within the next 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to double or triple that. So it's going to be a success when all is said and done. However, Mustafa Akkad has the rights, and he just licenses it. He's a very smart businessman as far as that goes. And so he can bring it around to different people. And it will be very easy to pull the rights back from Blumhouse because they're now expired. They're done with it. And give it to Sony or somebody else who's willing to buy it and do some fucking trash Hulu movie with it. Some
That's
flat,
Michael
boring
Myers in the
movie.
MCU.
Yeah, you'll see a really, I think, cruddy, boring sequel to come that's going to honor the original or something. Again.
I was gonna mention I watched this on Dolby Cinema actually. I've been doing that with the last two as well, so I thought like, all right, I won't break tradition this time either. But did the Peacock numbers do better than the theater box
Yes,
office? Okay,
I believe it did. Yeah, I think it was a massive hit on streaming. I don't know what the numbers are, but I read an article that said underperforms at the box office. Again, even though it was only 5 or 6 million short, and it still premiered at #1 at the box office, but did better on streaming. So I don't know how they account for those numbers, or maybe it's like subscription numbers or something. But that was a hit on Peacock.
Well, the whole trilogy. I'm reading up here. The first movie made 255 million.
Yeah, the first movie is like the all-time horror movie or all-time horror sequel or something as far as box office goes. I think it might have trounced it.
The second one did 131 million, which is also great.
Yeah.
And this one's on its way, even
Yeah.
though,
It's
because
crazy how well these two movies have done for premiering the same day on Peacock.
yeah, you would expect that, most people won't go see it in the theater because they can just watch it at home. But
Yeah.
apparently, Mexico, $2.5 million of just movie theaters. So that's the thing. They're raking in on the franchise outside of the United States too. So yeah, well, we're probably that's the worst part. That we'll probably see what you just said, just a very whatever bland movie, or they'll try to make it into like a TV show, which I wouldn't mind. When you said that thing about Haddonfield, or I don't know if it was Jeremy who said it, about how this should have been a TV show about the how everyone else is affected instead of just Lori.
I said it. Don't credit
Oh,
my
you said it.
ideas to other
Okay.
people. How dare you,
All right.
Hans?
All right. Well, that actually sounds like something I would be into. Because the thing
Yep.
that I disliked the most in this was the old characters, the Lori character, the granddaughter, and their relationship. I could not give one fuck about.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was focused on how everyone else's lives were affected instead of the same people that we've seen all the time, it would be an interesting watch, I think, in the right hands.
Idle Hands, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. They should do a series of that. That's the new David Gordon Green reboot. Is Idle Hands. Get Devon Sawa at 50
Starring,
years old.
yeah, what is it? Fuck, what is the movie when John Travolta
The
when he looks like
Fanatic.
Donkey Kong? Yeah,
Oh yeah.
the Fanatics, Devon Sawa.
Devlin Sawa. I think you're confusing some things there.
Oh, you got some Limp Biscuit? Oh, that's great. Get that on the box.
I think it would be great if they gave Fred Durst the Halloween franchise, and following in the footsteps of Rob Zombie. Fred Durst, Halloween.
Yeah, but he needs to have what was his name in that movie in the Fanatic? Moose. Is the
Moose.
new Michael. I mean, he was big enough, right? He could overpower people.
Was the character that Devon Sawa? It was Hunter Dunbar or something like that. There was
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
yeah,
awkward
yeah.
last name.
Yeah, the famous actor Hunter Dunbar. No, actually, Travolta does wear a Michael Myers mask in The Fanatic, doesn't he?
Does he?
I feel like that happened. I feel like that's Fred Durst trying to put it out in the universe that he wants to do a Halloween movie. I think he wore the full jumpsuit and everything.
No, it was a Jason mask.
It was a Jason. Oh, but did he wear the Michael outfit?
Yeah, let me.
The Dickies janitor outfit? I think so. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. It's a mesh. He didn't want to get in trouble. Yeah, just do a movie of this. Why not? That'd be great. What else is Travolta up to? It's only a matter of time before he gets that Bruce Willis brain syndrome, right?
Would it really make that much
He's-
of a difference?
He's got like one final comeback film in him, and then yeah, he's gonna turn into brain rot at that point.
It's the Grease reboot where he plays
God.
Brand.
Isn't Olivia Newton-John dead?
Yeah. Yeah, well, you just replace her with someone
CGI.
younger,
Some
I guess.
young man. Yeah.
Yeah, just put her face on someone's body. That's fine.
Well, all right. So what is the ultimate verdict here on Halloween Ends? I mean, Jeremy, what is your final thoughts on this film?
I mean, honestly, it's a movie you just kind of gotta let loose on a little bit and kind of let it take some of the reins and just kind of go along with both a mix of just hokiness, but also there's some style, there's some panache, there's a lot of just David Gordon Green isms scattered throughout that kind of give Halloween a much more earthy quality while still playing in the over the top sort of realm of things. But it's honestly, it's just like, just take it for what it is. Don't take it too seriously, and don't expect all of your burning questions about the characters and the storyline and how jumbled it is and the mess that it is. Don't expect all those questions to be answered. Just kind of have fun with it. It's fine. The one thing I was thinking about actually, like, returning to this, was that I would much rather a director take a risk like this that does not please next to nobody than to just do something that is very safe and very vanilla and very casual, like every other horror movie that comes out now. So at least it's a little different. And I'm thinking we're going to start to see more movies do this kind of thing too, where they don't really care about the Rotten Tomatoes uh, disarray. They don't care about what critics are saying or what audiences are saying. They are coming at it from an artist's point of view. And I think David Gordon Green, for the most part, does that well. So
I
it's
hope you're right, because I'll tell you what, all of these horror movies that have gotten a 90% or an 80% or 70% are just so dull, and they haven't been
yeah,
able to hold my attention. I've at least felt something about this movie where it was like maybe I wasn't happy with one component, or I was really into another component, or I had to like think about it and think about how I just generally was taking the film. Um, that cannot be said about any of the other movies. I just thought this is so fucking boring. This is so. There's some horror fan that thinks they know how to perfect the. I mean, that's really the root issue with everything is uniformity. People like clean cookie cutter expectations being met with all of their everything, with all of their. Sorry, I got a cat here who's just very rambunctious. With their horror franchise, with their franchises in general. And this did something a little bit different, not what we were expecting. I think people will come around to it in about 15 years. Halloween Kills will be first up, maybe. Although I see a lot of like literally me posts for the Corey character, so maybe this will be first to the finish line as far as that goes.
Yeah,
Certainly a very Kino Corner-esque appearance
yeah,
on this
only
Corey fellow.
only he can say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a point I wanted to get at before that was lost on me. It was something you were saying though, Jeremy, right before you got into that.
also lean into that too. Like, I mean, just right down to the casting choices. Like a lot of the extras in this, they look like real rugged middle American people, like people
Mhm.
that you just see day to day. Like the butcher in the grocery store look like a very very normal dude. You don't see that in most of these what I guess are quote unquote mainstream horror films, especially when you got someone like Universal back in it. It's very uncommon, and like just those little qualities, I think they stand out, and people that respond to it well, like they notice it.
Yeah,
And
I really like the supporting cast that they would bring along for these movies as well, because you would have people like Stewart from Mad TV, or the bad guy from Righteous Gemstones season one, or Lenny Clark. You know, all
yeah,
these like kind of obscure B list, C list, but not unfunny comedy people that are just thrown into the mix in the backgrounds. And let me ask you this, Jeremy: do you think that the reception of this movie would be as negative if it was not called Halloween Ends?
uh, it could go both ways. I think it would have gotten the same amount of reception, or it would have gotten the same kind of response that Kills got. I think if they were still hinting at another sequel, with it being called Ends, I think you see it's tough because like I even though this film lives up to that title, it doesn't own the Halloween franchise. They can keep making these movies. So it's just yeah, if you watch it as this trilogy, it works, but yeah, it might just take its time. I think it'll just have to take a few years to really warm up to people who want something a little bit different,
Hmm.
I guess. I gave you a bunch of different answers there. I don't know if that
I guess what you're trying to say is maybe.
maybe.
Uh, I was doing a little completely unrelated. Well, kind of. Little digging because I was curious of what John Travolta was doing after you asked that. The last couple of projects that I see here on IMDb, you got The Fanatic in 2019, and Die Hard, which was a Quibi show with Kevin Hart that apparently Bruce Willis turned down because he didn't understand the concept of Quibi, which is hilarious after knowing the news about him. And then after that, he did a Capital One ad. He did
Is that on his IMDb? Is
yes.
Capital One?
Yeah. Yeah, Christmas ad 2020, Capital One.
Oh yeah,
He
because he was a Santa Claus. I remember that ad. Yeah. Yeah.
There was a Pitbull video that he appeared in
Nice.
2019, and then He's appearing on a Bruce Willis movie that I think we just manifested when we said that, because it's a movie that started filming in 2021, where I think Bruce Willis was already kind of gone.
Mhm.
Uh, and the poster definitely looks like they were not in the same anything.
Oh no.
So this should be Chuck Russell directed. That name sounds familiar, but I
Chuck
don't know.
Russell did The Blob.
Mask. Right. Yeah. So and the Scorpion King.
Damn, they
Cool.
should have done like an homage to The Blob in the Halloween trilogy, where
Yeah.
Michael's body, now that he's ground up, is just gonna continue to. It's like a cancer cell. It's just gonna start growing and overtake the town. That would be the way to go with part 4.
Oh,
I
I thought
think.
you were gonna say the Blob starring Bruce Willis's brain.
Oh,
But but that's supposedly coming out this year, rated R. Let me show you it's got
please
Stephen
do.
Dorff, friend of the show, Stephen Dorff in it too. So that looks like it would be good. Look at this
Paradise
poster.
City. He looks like Pitbull in that poster, huh?
Yeah, this cast, Stephen Dorff. You got that Native American guy that is Native American guy on Native American roles, and then just a bunch of other people. You know, bunch of other people.
My big break. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, this is
So
gonna be it for Victor Gonzalez.
so that's where his career is. Look how confused he looks there. He's like, "Who's this? Is that me?" uh yeah, so I don't know if that Grease thing is gonna happen, because it doesn't seem like his career is going that way. And
Does
the
he
other
have
movie,
anything in development? Wow, they real all right. You weren't making a joke. They did add the Captain
No.
One commercial to IMDb.
No.
Jesus. So this is going to be their third or fourth movie together. Since you had Pulp Fiction, you had Look Who's Talking, Look Who's Talking 2, Look Who's Talking Now, and
Is Bruce
now
Willis in all of those?
he's the voice of the baby.
Ah, that's never seen that. And that American Metal just sounds like one of those European movies that has just a bunch of people that used to be A or B
Kevin
listers.
Dillon. Kevin Dillon's been making the rounds a ton with Bruce Willis lately
Yeah, that's sad. There's this guy who looks familiar, but I don't know
because
where
he was
he's
just
from.
in the last movie on the IMDb for the last movie, along with Stephen Dorff.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, I think so. Go
And
back.
then this guy kind of looks like Vigo, but you can't afford Vigo.
I-
You
I was-
get
I was gonna say
Timothy
that-
Murphy.
I was gonna say this Robert Miano character. His face looks like it's starting to really shrivel up.
He looks like one of those pumpkins at the start of Halloween Ends. Is that Jigsaw?
He looks like that actor, yeah. But yeah, I don't think that if they do that Grease thing, I don't think he's gonna have a big role. You know that Grease movie that I just
Yeah, that you
that
made
just
up and you keep
manifested?
trying to make happen.
Yeah. I don't know. His
Well,
career is-
you know what the interesting thing about Grease is that it came out around the same time as Hotel for Dogs.
Yeah. What's Hotel for Dogs? Isn't that a remake that George Lopez was in, where he played a Chihuahua like 10 years ago? Oh no, that was Beverly Hills Chihuahua. Never mind.
That was Beverly Hills Chihuahua. That's
Yeah.
right. No, you know what's a good movie is The Shaggy Dog with Tim Allen. Can we look at the poster real quick and this is for the
Is that what he's-
patreon.com/LowRes subscribers only to take a look at the Shaggy Dog poster.
Is that where he has human eyes?
I don't know. You're going to have to
It
pull it
is.
up to
Hold
find
on.
out.
It's-
Show
it's-
the audience.
It's pre-Iron Man Robert Downey Jr. as well in that film, I think.
Damn, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, he was doing Gothica. He was doing Ally McBeal around that time. So I guess
Yeah.
the Shaggy Dog is not out of order.
Jesus, creepy.
Yeah. Let's take a look at this.
He's got
Damn.
his
What if Michael
eyes.
Myers? What if the soul of Michael Myers got into the Shaggy Dog and you did a Cujo homage?
Look at this.
Fuck. Is that from the movie?
Oh my god. I watched that film when it came out too. I don't remember it looking that
Wow.
scary.
And the family just acts like that's normal, that the dog has eyes like that. Oh God!
The
What
dog
about
goes,
the
"Ow, ow."
Shaggy DA? See, that's from the '60s. The Shaggy DA lets all of the murderers and rapists out of prison after 48 hours if they can't pay their bail.
Wait, so the dog had regular eyes, but then when he became the dog, then that's when we get into these
How else would you know
nightmare-
it's Tim Allen?
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Oh, is that a remake?
Yeah,
What?
it's a remake. It was a '60s series, The Shaggy Dog and the Shaggy DA. See, but they would put
Yeah.
glasses on the dog back then,
Right.
which
Well, because you couldn't do this masterpiece of VFX where you insert the human eyes on the dog. Yeah. He just looks like it's very high. The dog just looks like it's been.
oh god,
Yeah.
it's really scary stuff.
What a damn shame. I would have seen that new Buzz Lightyear film if they brought Tim Allen back for whatever reason. But nah, you gotta cast bland white bread. What's his name?
Chris Evans, yeah,
Chris
they should have put
Evans.
Tim Allen's eyes on Buzz Lightyear too, but his real
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah.
Wait, this is worse. This is
that
Return of the Shaggy Dog.
is not real. That can't be real. That's not real, right? That might be real. Oh no. Can we?
1987.
Oh no.
Oh God.
It's real. Well, that's cute. What about? All right, click the image. So here's what they did. They got tired of working with a dog, and they gave the guy like a furry style face mask to wear, and they didn't even fill in the makeup around the eyes. He's just wearing it like a fucking creep. The Shaggy Dog series might be good for Civic TV. What is this, Hans?
The Return of the Shaggy Dog.
No, this is something else, Hans. You're on WhatsApp right now, exposing
whoops,
your
everyone's seeing
messages.
my conversation's great.
Don't worry,
Hold
they're
on.
in Spanish.
Okay. Hold
This
on.
is the second time you've done this, too.
I
mean,
did-
actually, this is nothing new, because you were giving out the password on the Civic
Yeah.
TV Twitch.
I do it
for
all the time. You
ages.
just don't notice.
You haven't done it in a while.
Here it is.
Week, a super month of Shaggy Dog Sundays. Wilby Daniels is Fred McMurray's harebrained kid.
My son happens to be a dog.
In the classic Disney comedy, The Shaggy Dog.
Yeah.
Then it's
Wow.
30 years later,
They got to bring that sound effect back.
she's getting married.
Boink.
Bridegroom
Doink.
is
Yeah.
It's a
The what? Is it the whistle?
return of the Shaggy
Yeah.
Dog.
Slide whistle?
Yeah.
Full of fun with two Shaggy Dog comedies
Oh,
coming
man.
to Disney Sunday movie.
I wish I was alive and well, it probably was alive.
In the 60s.
Disney.
Yep, that's right. You were just a boy. This is what
87.
your family used to watch.
Is Fred McMurray's harebrained coming in
Oh,
three-
that's just repeating. Yeah, that's
Wow.
Hairbrained.
The Shaggy Dog universe. That's we're covering that on the next episode of movies.
Yep, that will be a retrospective. How many Shaggy Dog films are there? So we know there's at least the Shaggy Dog, Return of the Shaggy Dog, the Shaggy DA, the Shaggy Dog remake.
It's a trilogy that came out. So the first one was the Shaggy Dog in '59. Then you got the Shaggy DA in '76, and then the Return on '87, where the dog marries someone. Apparently, hold on.
He takes her riding on a motorcycle and goes up to the radio tower. Let's take a look at this. The Shaggy.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the
Chien
French-
Malgré Lou.
the French
The
version.
controversial end of the
is-
trilogy.
Disney has a really a real big thing for dogs. Like they tried one thing with the Aristocats and then they just gave up. They're like, yeah, just dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they should just do Song of the South. But
Two.
again, yeah. Oh
This
man, this
is,
is actually kind of awesome. Tim Conway's in this.
That's great. Tim Conway's good.
Is he? That sounds
I like
familiar.
him.
don't
I
know.
think
don't
I
know.
thought he was funny when he was alive. All right. Do we have anything else to say about the Halloween trilogy? Are you guys looking forward to maybe seeing, since The Munsters has been a success, maybe Rob Zombie puts an end to his trilogy,
What? A
the
Monsters
Halloween
trilogy?
trilogy? No,
I hardly
no.
remember his Halloween ad. I saw them once. Maybe I'll go
Yeah.
back to the first one again, just out of curiosity one of these days. But yeah, I don't know if he's ever gonna seal the deal with a third one.
He almost did. I think I think he was going to do the Adam Green thing where he wasn't going to direct it, but he was going to produce it, and they were going to have Scout Taylor Compton back
Yeah.
as the lead and do Halloween 3 to put an end to the Michael Myers movies. I don't know. I thought the remake he did was fine. I went back to. I remember not liking it when I first watched it back in 2006 or 7, and then I watched it, I think, a year ago. And I was like, oh, this isn't bad at all. But Halloween 2, I think, is it has some good ideas in it, some interesting ideas in it. I like the idea of Loomis being an opportunist, selling a salacious book. It felt very like O.J. Simpson trial. But yeah, no, I don't think it really came together. At least the last time I watched it, and it's been a while since I watched H2. Rob Zombie's H2. But
Yeah, didn't you love that short trend where posters and like when Scream 4 comes out, Screform or the Fantastic Four, like Fan Four Stick or something, like they put the number in the title.
I'll take that any day over just repeating the title, like Halloween 2018 and Scream 2022 and
Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Hellraiser again. That's what it should have been called. Hellraiser again.
Again.
That would have been good. Do you? I don't know. Have you checked out anything else horror related lately, as far as many of these reboots or sequels go, Jeremy?
I just what have I watched? I think I mentioned to you briefly. I did check out Barbarian, and I was not as thrilled with that like most general audiences were.
Right.
A little bit let down by the social commentary end of it, and
Oh no.
yeah. I mean, it just bogs it down. Like, I mean, you had the first 45 minutes or so, like it really leads you on to something kind of great, and then it just goes bizarre. I would say the only other thing I've watched recently was that film Deadstream on Shudder.
Oh, right. Yeah. How did that go?
That was the weird opposite effect, I guess, of Barbarian, where it's so over the top and so weirdly spirited in the whole realm of people that like, I guess the YouTuber types that do these kind of stunts and try to explode their views, even though they've got like a shrouded past or a history of doing something that's very evil, we'll just say.
Mm-hmm.
And making fun of that. It does it way better in like the Evil Dead fun sense of things than Barbarian ends up doing. And then the other one I watched actually just the other night was Dark Glasses, which is Dario Argento's new movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Which took me by surprise. It's not a great film, but it actually felt very competent and less cheap than like his last 5 or so endeavors that I've seen, where he just like it was so old in his ways and didn't quite get with the times. But this was the first turnaround where I was like, he's making a comeback, or at least he had somebody whisper in his ear like, yeah, do different thing with this shot, come on.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pleased with that one, and I would recommend it to anybody that's going on a giallo spree this Halloween season.
I'm gonna check that out. I had it downloaded for a long period of time, but it's always difficult for whatever reason to stream a foreign picture that does not have the English language and then also have the subtitles on the screen. Chromecast doesn't really help with that much. So it's good that it's on Shudder. I'm going to give that a watch eventually. He's great in Vortex, the
Yep.
Gaspar Noé film, which maybe we'll cover on this show at some point. But that'll probably be the next up for me as far as horror goes. And yeah, we did talk about Barbarian at length on your program, which we can plug right now, which is what is the official title? Are you going with Fleet Pit After Hours or After Dark?
Dude, I'm just gonna go back to Fleet Pit After Dark. It had a good ring to it. If you're if After Dark, if it's fluctuating at the moment, I'm just gonna go back to that title.
Yes, and we got into Takeout, which is Sean Baker and Shin Ching Su film. I think that's right. And a bunch of other movies and sorts of things, and people should check out that episode when it drops. This episode will probably go up on Patreon, and we're recording this on October 18th. It will also drop on the upcoming Monday. So that'll be, I think, the 24th. And will the episode be out by that point?
I can try. I was thinking like I would lean it more into November, just given the theming of the show. But
yeah,
maybe for an exclusive live viewing, I might drop it just a little bit early. I'll give you deets on that later. But
all right, yeah. We'll figure that out at a later time.
Yep.
But anyway, do we have any final thoughts either on the Halloween franchise, on movies themselves, or whatever, as we close out the program?
Evil died tonight.
Remake
That's my-
Shaggy Dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
David Gordon
Yeah.
Green's Shaggy Dog, I think, should be on.
Rob Zombie's Shaggy DA is the one I want to see. Where he's a cop and he just shoots people for no reason because he's a dog. Yeah.
Yeah,
That could be good.
Yeah, Comb Over Cop 1, 2, 3, and 4. Write them all back to back. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think Halloween Ends is a fun watch. But if you're looking for a continuation of Halloween, you got to put that aside. Just get over it. There's fucking 10 of these movies. You got 10 movies to choose from. How about just this one? How about one with Corey? How about a good Corey movie? That's all we really needed, I think. And this movie succeeded at that. Hans, how long until you give it the half a star to give it 2 stars on Letterboxd?
I guess when I watch it again, I'm in a better mood.
All right. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on the program tonight. We're going to have you back at another point, I'm certain of. And yeah, this has been our episode on Halloween Ends. Maybe we'll do a compendium release where we put out all 3 episodes as one episode at some point. We'll see. Or maybe we'll just do a separate episode with retrospective on the trilogy at a later date. But that has been Movies for this week. Thank you for listening.